Gracias para is wrong. It's also one of the most common mistakes Spanish learners make. Knowing when to use por and para is tricky in Spanish, especially if you come from English, since there's only one word for it, for. I'm Spring Spanish teacher Maura, and in this video you'll learn tons of chunks on how to use gracias grammatically correct and some more alternatives to saying gracias in Spanish so it never gets boring. Número uno, the mistake. In case you're not sure what we're saying is wrong, here are a couple of examples. Gracias para venir. Gracias para todo. As you can see, it even hurts my brain to say it. That being said, entiendo totalmente que es un error común y fácil de cometer, which is why I'm doing this video. The correct usage, though, would change para for por. Gracias por venir. Gracias por todo. Other examples of the right usage could be: Gracias por este regalo tan maravilloso. Gracias por entender. Me dio las gracias por ayudarla. Le di las gracias por su amabilidad. Gracias por tanto. Chunk alert! Gracias por tanto is one of those chunks you might not get to if you're translating from your original language. You could add something afterwards, of course, like gracias por tanto cariño o gracias por tanta atención. And maybe that would come easier from the translation. But you can just say gracias por tanto by itself without specifying what. De esta manera puedes hacer saber a la otra persona que sientes que ha hecho demasiadas cosas por ti como para enumerarlas. But that you acknowledge and appreciate them all. I literally say this every time my friends have me over, feed me, and entertain me, or to my family who are always doing nice things for me. Thanks, family. Remember to check the link in the description to access our free Essential Spanish Chunking Kit. It's our way to tell you guys, gracias por tanto. Número 2. The difference between gracias por and gracias para. Alright, so in all fairness, there is a time when you can use the combination gracias para correctly. The thing is, no cuando quieras agradecer a alguien. Let me repeat. You can never use para after gracias when thanking someone. Let's review some examples to understand when this will make sense instead. Gracias para mí significa apreciar y reconocer las bondades del otro. Dar gracias para ser educado es muy importante. Me dio las gracias para manipularme, pero no le creo en lo absoluto. Le di las gracias para que sepa que reconozco su esfuerzo. As you can see, I'm not thanking anyone in these examples. When gracias is followed by para, the only alternative you have is to add a reason or a purpose for someone to thank someone, like in me dio las gracias para manipularme. Or to say what the word means to someone, as in gracias para mí significa apreciar. Now, por is a preposition which will allow you to actually thank someone for something. Por lo tanto, también es la más utilizada. It was actually hard for me to find examples with para, meaning just learn these chunks and trust that almost every time you will need a por if you're adding more information after gracias. De este modo, seguro que aciertas siempre. Here are some examples with por which are much easier for me to come up with. Gracias por las risas. Nos dio las gracias por el apoyo que le brindamos. Por favor, dale las gracias por avisarme. Te agradezco por todo lo que has hecho por mí. Before I forget, stick with me till the end if you want to get those alternative ways to say gracias in Spanish so you can sound like the natives and not like the students. Now, this last one uses the verb agradecer instead of the word gracias. But as you can see in te agradezco por todo, it follows the same rules as gracias. And so it's also followed by por in these instances. After por, what tends to follow is either a thing, like gracias por las risas, or a verb, as in gracias por avisarme. The same thing would apply to English, so just know that this is the most common scenario in Spanish as well, and it goes with por. If you'd like to understand the differences between para and por in more context than just this one, make sure to check Mariana's video on the subject right here. Número 3. Alternatives to gracias. One of the first things you can do to spice up the same old gracias is to add something in front of it. The most common words would be muchas o muchísimas gracias. Muchísimas is just muchas, but bigger. We love to do that in Spanish, especialmente los latinoamericanos. Mil gracias. It might sound dramatic, but we use this instead of just gracias for everything. Incluso acciones muy simples como entregarte algo. Un millón de gracias. Again, you can use this for anything, and it won't sound as intense as it does in the translation. Then, you do have some expressions that do not include the word gracias. Un millón. This does come from un millón de gracias, but at least in Venezuela, it is very common to just shorten it for un millón. Tengo una tía que básicamente solo dice esto para decir gracias. Dios te lo pague. Latin America is pretty Catholic, so a lot of people will use this expression to be thankful. Because of it, I'm sure it was used everywhere, but currently it might be more common in some Spanish-speaking countries than others. También la edad y la religiosidad. Yo nunca digo esto, por ejemplo. Te la debo o te debo una. Both of these mean the same, and it is pretty common in many different Spanish-speaking countries. The only thing is, the right context for this would be thanking someone for a favor more than anything else. Like, no podría haberlo terminado sin ti, te debo una. Actually, Maria Fernanda made a whole video on gracias, which included this alternative as well, and she's from Mexico. Para más opciones mexicanas, asegúrate de ver su video. Número 4. Review. Now let's review a bit, shall we? To thank someone for something with gracias, you say gracias por, and then add the thing you're grateful for, either a thing or an action, like gracias por todo, gracias por venir. And you do have some alternatives to change it up. You can add a word like muchas o muchísimas gracias, mil gracias, un millón de gracias. Or use entirely different constructions like un millón, Dios te lo pague, te la debo o te debo una. Por and para is difficult though, but just as you learn with chunks how to use them correctly with gracias, you can learn many more chunks with por and para to always use them correctly. Spring Spanish teacher Mariana will show you how it's done here.